lives and livelihoods around the world, and its contribution to the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals under the 2030 Agenda, as well as the critical role tuna plays in marine ecosystems. Mr. President, the global economic activity that tuna fisheries can generate directly and indirectly is remarkable. Every year, at least 2.5 million tons of global tuna catch is destined for the canning industry, and globally around 256 million cases are consumed, valued at $7.5 billion United States dollars. Therefore, ensuring the long-term sustainability of world's tuna and billfish fisheries is intrinsically linked with providing food security, vital livelihoods, and economic benefits in many regions of the world. In my own region, tuna has for centuries provided an important source of food for Pacific Islanders and employment, as well as intangible cultural and traditional value to our peoples. Today, tuna fishing is also an important source of income, and for some of our members, the tuna resources within the 200-mile Exclusive Economic Zones represent their only significant renewable resource and their best opportunity for sustainable economic development. In addition to the critical economic value of tuna, it plays an important role in the marine ecosystem. Declining tuna population and changes in their food web dynamics may impair the ocean's capacity to generate basic ecosystem services, which are vital to human health, welfare, and economic activities. Despite their importance, tuna face serious challenges to their long-term sustainability. There are more hooks and nets set in the oceans for tuna than any other group of fish. And as we have noted at the United Nations and other fora, these include overcapacity of fishing fleets, equitable allocation of fishing rights among fishing nations, implementation of the precautionary approach and ecosystem approach, and combating illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. To have healthy populations of tuna in the future, we need to strengthen our efforts to end overfishing and IUU fishing, and also to ensure that the gear used on tuna fishing doesn't endanger other ocean life. These issues, among others, were the drivers for the parties to the Nauru Agreement to designate in 2011 May 2nd as World Tuna Day. We are pleased to celebrate it with friends here at the United Nations for the first time earlier this year. Given the work which is being undertaken on the implementation of the 2030 Agenda, including particularly Sustainable Development Goal SDG 14, to conserve and sustainably use the oceans and seas and marine resources for sustainable development, it is an opportune time to underscore the centrality of tuna for global food security and sustainable development aspirations, as well as take the opportunity to showcase and share best practices on sustainable tuna conservation, use, and management. And we are pleased that this day will now be marked by the world as well. The World Tuna Day is therefore necessary to protect this magnificent species and to protect our oceans and seas and the millions of people who rely on them. We celebrate tuna now, and we look forward to doing so well into the future. Mr. President, we look forward to adopting the draft resolution by consensus today. Mr. President, allow me to continue with general remarks on the agenda item 73, Oceans and the Law of the Sea. At the outset, we the PCIDS would like to thank Mr. Tembili Joini of South Africa and Mr. Andreas Kravik of Norway for their able leadership in bringing these negotiations to their successful conclusion and we are pleased to support the adoption of these resolutions on oceans and the law of the sea and the sustainable fisheries and World Tuna Day. Mr. President, we attach particular importance to this agenda item. We consider the ocean the lifeblood of our economies and our societies, and we therefore are keenly attuned to the mounting negative impacts on its health driven by human activity. Overfishing, as well as illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, marine pollution including from microplastics, the destruction of marine habitats, and other threats to marine biodiversity, and climate change-driven impacts such as ocean acidification are among a number of serious threats to the health and resilience of our shared ocean. These serious and mounting impacts are not merely threats to our ocean, but constitute a serious challenge to our sustainable development and our ability to meet the aspirations encompassed in the 2030 Agenda. Healthy, productive, and resilient oceans and seas are critical for inter alia, poverty eradication, access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food, economic development, and essential ecosystem services. Mr. President, the PCs were at the forefront of those advocating for the inclusion of the SDGs, a standalone goal dedicated to the conservation and sustainable use of our oceans and seas. And we welcome the inclusion of SDG 14 in the 2030 Sustainable Development and look forward to beginning the critical work of implementation to meet the targets on protecting marine ecosystems, on addressing acidification, ending IUU fishing, and increasing benefits to seeds and LDCs, among others. In this regard, we welcome the follow-up to the 2030 Agenda, including the first United Nations Conference to support the implementation of SDG 14. We congratulate the co-facilitators of the process, the distinguished permanent representatives of Portugal and Singapore, and we look forward to working closely with them to ensure a strong and successful conference. Mr. President, we were not alone in reacting with deep concern to recent reports that marine biodiversity has undergone considerable decline over the past 40 years, with populations on marine vertebrates declining at the rate of 49% and some at rates near 75%. Given the critical role which oceans and oceans health play for our societies and for development, this news is stark indeed, especially when coupled with the increasing adverse impacts which climate change and carbon dioxide emissions are having on our oceans and seas. We are therefore pleased that in the next year's informal consultative process on oceans and the law of the sea, we will bring focused attention to the issue of climate change and oceans. And in a similar vein, we note that reports such as the United Nations World Ocean Assessment lend urgency to the work undertaken by the Preparatory Committee to develop a legally binding instruments under UNCLOS on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. We believe that the process is being made in this work and look forward to concluding a successful PrepCom with the 2 sessions we have scheduled for 2017. Mr. President, as we continue to acknowledge the contributions of the International Seabed Authority for the ongoing capacity building initiatives targeting developing countries, and look forward to further progressing the development of a comprehensive set of rules governing seabed mining to ensure the effective protection of the marine environment from harmful effects that may arise from the activities in the area. We have stated on numerous occasions just now how important the work of the ISA is to the PCs, with our exclusive economic zones amounting to more than 30 million square kilometers and the directly being adjoining to the lucrative Clarion-Clipperton zone. We also acknowledge the important contributions of the Commission on the limits of the continental shelf. We therefore welcome the steps taken to ensure that developing states, especially LDCs and SIDS, are able to fully participate in the deliberations of subcommissions on their applications. Mr. President, the importance of healthy fisheries to our economies and livelihoods cannot be overstated, and the Pacific has been a site of global leadership in investing in fisheries management and monitoring, control, and surveillance activities. This work, though, does not take place in a vacuum, and we reiterate our call on the need to provide accurate, complete, and reliable data to support scientific stock assessment and ecosystem approaches to fisheries management. We also emphasize here, as we did at the review conference, that the need for target reference points in the management of fish stocks, which will help enable a long-term sustainable exploitation of such stocks, and the obligation to ensure that a disproportionate burden of conservation action is not transferred to developing countries, including the PCIDs and SIDS generally. Mr. President, finally, we would like to thank the Wallows for their ongoing hard work and support, especially with relation to capacity building and their technical support and legal advice. In closing, and in honor of the adoption of this watershed resolution by this August Assembly, we are extending an invitation to all delegations to a reception this evening at the United Nations private dining room from 6:30 to 8:30, and we look forward to have all of you to join us to mark this auspicious occasion. And I thank you for your time.